Emil, thank you for giving my talk. You basically proved that I don't really even need to give the talk because you supported the total hip arthroplasty. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. I don't know where Ted is, but I'm the one that usually argues for the ORIF, and you argue for the total hip. But anyway, I was going to call you an ignorant slut, but someone said that was inappropriate. So we're going to talk about, and I'm going to take the idea, so it is the 20-year anniversary, so I don't quite look as good as I did, but hopefully a little smarter in the 20 years. The only thing I'm going to make sure you guys kind of take as fact is that Chip Rout is the best ORIF person in the world. Okay, so just assume that's true, and you'll know why. Cool studies, and so I'm going to go through a bunch of studies, bunch of cases that Emil did an ORIF and screwed it up, and so we'll get to those. But this study by Poleman, Letournell's first 130 patients or so, no patients were over 60. His registry, more than 50% are greater than 60. So the population has changed a little bit, and it's because we are getting on bikes and other things. Some horrible papers, well, when I read them, 50% went to a total hip from Tenast, and 79% by 20 years, so horrible. Weber did good studies doing total hips for the acetabulum, 78% good to excellent results. Mears, I don't know if I can trust him, but 79% good to excellent results. The things that went bad is he didn't fix the acetabulum before the total hip. So doing the total hip, do that. His indications was osteopenia, intra-articular comminution, full thickness abrasion loss, impaction of femoral pad, greater than 40%. I keep hearing this, the amount of articular surface that's impacted. I don't believe that because I can show you a guy 26 years later. If you have more impaction of the dome, that it's the step off. That's better because the hip goes into that portion and it's just elevated a little bit. It's that medial side step off that causes the problem. This study, more than 3 pieces of the posterior wall. Anglin, 2/3 of his failures were over 60 were this gall sign. He didn't really know what a gall sign was, but this is what a real gall sign is. But its idea is that medial impaction. This is with Mata, but had 10 cases. Again, they used this greater than 50% of the acetabular roof involvement, and I'm not sure exactly, that's not a great way of doing it if it all goes as one piece. Anyway, only 10 patients. I love the one had a dislocation. They put in a hip spica. Another case, more than 1 centimeter of a weight-bearing dome, more than 1 centimeter displacement of a both column, and he did these anti-protrusion cases. He did use some 3/5 screws, but he said there was no attempts to reduce it. So I think this is your meta-analysis. 77% arthroplasty risk of revision. So it really, that's horrible. So for every 100 patients you're doing an ORIF, 17 of them are going to get revised to a total hip. So, but what we can't seem to do is a primary hip versus doing one for a fracture. Every study has a little higher risk of, they don't do as well. They're a little higher risk of dislocation, a little higher risk of infection, and I'm not sure why that is. More recently, this Templeman looked at this and essentially had, his thing was marginal impactions greater than 3 fragments, certainly previous osteoarthritis, and basically had a 13% revision rate of the hip, 37, so significantly, and Emil talked about that, it's really more surgery for the ones that do an ORIF. Interestingly, I do juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, so I put a hip in a 14. I guess 14 is probably the youngest I've had. And they do well, so I can argue pretty well that doing hips in all of these cases would be okay, not even considering young and old. Veris did another study, again, 30% reoperation and 14% for the total hip. one article I thought he was going to use, Helfet's study, which is a very interesting study because when I looked at it, I said, that is way too good. He only had like 1 out of 17. So I called Dave, I don't know if he's retired now, and he said, well, there's a new paper coming out where the results are not so good. So 1 in 4 required a total hip. But I don't think he ever published it. I never saw it. This is what's, elderly, there's more complications, 51% complication. And so it's a little bit harder to do. So significant problems. He recommended against extensive approaches. He looked whether they could be independently, but he called displacement of more than 3 millimeters in the dome. That would be a reason to do a total hip. Osteopenia keeps coming up, and it's one of Letournel's big things. And I agree with Emil on the mentally challenged people. Those are ones that I tend not to operate. This is from Letournel's page 348. It's the most important contraindication to operative treatment. And so hopefully we're either in hell or heaven together, and I can ask him because I've never really understood that. But anyway, difficulties, the exposure, the osteopenic bone, we go along with the elderly. There's difficulties doing the total hip, mainly because you got to fix the bone before you do it. So there's problems with both of them. But I think we would be in agreement that femoral head damage, impaction of a partial dome, that's significant, and then previous osteoarthritis. So some of Emil's failures, this wasn't a failure, sorry. She came to me before she got to you. Again, femoral neck, he gave the talk. I mean, no place in orthopedics do we have a 30% failure or greater with fixation. And so you can argue, and he suggested this too, that even in young people, you could get away with doing total hips because total hips do so well. Again, this is one of Emil's, I'm sorry. And we had to kind of redo that to a total hip. 58-year-old, very similar on the other side. I really like the anterior approach for doing these because I can measure my reaming, my abduction, my anteversion, all of this kind of stuff, and at the same time, basically I can compare the two sides through the anterior approach because they're right on the table, so I can make sure I get the right height, and again, repair. This is a 72-year-old, and again, that's where the dome gets impacted on the way in. And I've had people argue, Chip, one of the people that argued with me, oh yeah, you just don't know how to fix it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, right. Anyway, the pre-op looks exactly like the post-op, and fortunately this is his, so it works out good for me. Anyway, so this is what you'll see on the CT, where like half of the dome, and that's kind of an impaction. You got to make sure it's really an impaction versus an elevation of the anterior wall or dome with cortical piece. So that's the big thing between it. So anyway, this is what they did initially. Looks just like the pre-op diagnosis, so I'm sure that at some point they had it better. And then we had to revise that because the patient was still miserably. And this is generally what I'll do. I'll fix the fracture. I kind of have this plate, and now Stryker has a plate that kind of does what I used to do before that plate was there. This is another one. Literally, he was driving to the orthopedic to get a total hip, and he got in an accident and had an MI, and so, again, he had pre-existing osteoarthritis. I think that's a great one to just start with a total hip, and I think we did the exact same thing that we did on the last one, where we put the plate to kind of hold the quadrilateral surface, and then we put the recon plate over it, so, and fixed that pretty well. Interesting, you don't always get before and after shots of a fracture. So here's the before, and this is going to happen on the left side. I had done his right side for a femoral neck that had failed, and so here's the fracture afterwards, and it's kind of a transverse posterior wall with comminution. Anytime you see 7 plates, 2 different surgeries, Again, has anybody got Chip? Because I don't want to get in trouble with him, but this was Chip's. Anyway, had to fix it because it already failed 3 months, walked across the street. A very similar, in a posterior column, one of the worst things for Letronel. This was done 3 plates. And here's the fracture beforehand. And so they did a really great job kind of documenting why they didn't do it. And I told Chip, I said, well, that's an impaction. You kind of missed that. And he goes, oh, no, that wasn't the problem. And I'm like, oh, okay. But there's kind of the dome that's kind of missing a piece, and that's in a bad place. What's cool about this case is this. The sciatic nerve is running right through that stuff, and so it was a pain in the butt to do it, but eventually did a total hip. And interestingly, there was a discussion yesterday, left the plates alone. JP is another person. Now, this one actually was fixed by Chip. They actually did the hip there, and then it came over towards me. Oh, it might have been Emil. It could have been Chip. I don't know which one it was. Anyway, so it's kind of one of those things. The CRP was elevated. I was worried about potentially infection, so we kind of staged this one. The difference is in this one, I think 1 stages could work. I really do. I just can't pull the trigger on it. So this was kind of a 2-stager to some degree. Again, making sure you debride it and do everything you need to do beforehand. And I use a nuclear bomb. Most of the time I'm taking out the rod. In this case, I happened to leave it because it was so stable. And I said, the cultures were all negative. It didn't look infected. Yes, it was elevated, but I took a chance. This is if I had to take it out. That's what it looked like. And sometimes you've got to debride the whole thing. And I literally have total femurs that go all the way down to the tibias or down to the ankle joint. So there are implants to do it. This was, for anybody that's UC, this is a JOJ's device, which actually is pretty cool. It works nicely. And so, as I said, this one, so here's JP. It's a dystocia of the columns are totally broken. And so it's kind of a difficult case to do. Really what you think about is how do I get stability of the cup? So contained defects, sometimes you need them. Allograft, you saw a case earlier of allograft, but I really try to make sure that that cup is stable, and I do what it takes to do it. But this is generally my go-to where I do I plated that just because there was a defect in the whole column, and there was, I didn't want it going through. But a cup construct. So the idea is I'm happy to go over why that seems to work, but that cage kind of protects me for a little bit, and then I cement in a cup into that cage. So I think you need to be able to go anterior, posterior. Last case, this is the medial one that I talked about. It goes, and I either go anterior or posterior. Anterior, if most of the problems anteriorly, this happened to be more of a posterior wall. And again, that's that dome piece, and you'll see kind of where there's almost a double bubble of the articular surface, so that's impacted. Those are disasters, okay? And if it's a huge piece, those can sometimes do well. And so I'll go through I did a Coker and do that. There are people that do different things, and that was it. And we talked about cement. I don't use it. I know the literature supports it, but that's just the way it is. And I don't know if it's because I do so many infected cemented joints, it's just a pain to get out the cement. And this study actually, total versus hemi. I still do hemi because I really think it's easy for me, but there's literature to support that the total will always do better than the hemi. So femoral head damage, dome impaction, partial dome impaction, I showed pre-existing osteoarthritis, osteopenia. I think all of those, a total hip is indicated.
Thank you.
Does that mean I'm done? Oh, there it goes. I just wanted to show you the shirt from one of my patients, Charity Hospital. The life you save may take your own. Next slide, because it shows the Mardi Gras and some boobs in it. You know, I'm going to just let us go. Oh, thank you.